all, we'll talk a little bit about how the schema design affects your application generation. Schema design is very important to IronSpeed Designer. Then we'll go over what we mean by a customer service application. Then we'll go over the general idea of how to build it, and then we'll review the ones we have prepared for you ahead of time, because of course building a complete application in under an hour is something you can't do, not get all the parts of it right, but we have a good example for you, and you'll be able to take it home with you once we send you the links to it. As I said, schema design in your database is very important to IronSpeed Designer. So to get the most out of it, prepare your database first. Your page layout, functionality, performance, everything is determined by your schema design and your schema. To create a web application with IronSpeed Designer, you don't have to know about .NET particularly. You don't have to really understand how to code. You don't have to understand ASPX or .NET, but it is very helpful if you understand your database and what it represents, how it's tied together, and the web of information that's contained in it. You'll want to normalize your schema so that you have no repeating information in your tables. You have index tables, and you use less fields rather than more in every table to be more efficient. You'll have primary and foreign keys to give you one-to-many, many-to-many relationships in your database. With the child tables, you'll also get parent detail pages, and you'll also use lookup tables. Lookup tables allow you to put in a single table all the values for a field, and then you just use the primary key of that table to give you the value for the field. And wherever you're looking up anything in your database, be sure that things are indexed. Anytime you go to look something up, if there's very much data there, indexing will make all the difference in the performance of your database. So be sure that all the aspects of your database are indexed. Now, since IronSpeed Designer builds its application from your database, it's very important to use meaningful names in your database. You can use camel case, where you use upper and lower case, and IronSpeed Designer will parse the results. And it's important to try and be consistent in your use of singular and plural so that your application will be consistent. Also, your database field data types should match as closely as possible the data that they're actually representing. So it's important to pay attention to the length of your fields and the types of your fields. For instance, if you have a field that has currency in it, then you wouldn't want to use just decimal or binary. You'd like to use a currency type. All of your tables should have primary keys. The primary key allows IronSpeed Designer to access each record individually and gives it a reference to every single record in the table. If for some reason you have a database and aren't permitted to add a primary key when one is missing, then IronSpeed Designer has a virtual primary key facility. It allows you to declare to IronSpeed Designer which fields in the table constitute a primary key, and at that point, IronSpeed Designer will use that as if it existed in the database, but there won't be any changes made to your database, so you won't affect anybody outside of your application. Likewise, you should have foreign keys. Foreign keys really represent the web of information that ties all of the data together. Foreign keys create master detail pages, and they allow you to refer to data in other tables easily. If for some reason you have a foreign key relationship which exists but is not declared in your database, and you can't change the database to declare it, which is what you should be able to do. But if you can't get at your database, we also have a virtual foreign key wizard. So with the virtual foreign key wizard, you can declare which tables and which fields represent the foreign key, and at that point, IronSpeed Designer will use it as if it exists, but it won't make any changes to the database, and so no one outside of your application will be affected. As your application development goes on, you'll want to represent many different relationships among the tables. You'll have complex queries. If at all possible, you should declare those queries in the database. Use the database to tie the different elements of your data into a single view, and then use those views as a basis for the pages. It's always more efficient to use the database for that purpose than to try and use IronSpeed Designer to put separate tables on a single page and tie them all together. Remember, IronSpeed Designer is not a query construction tool. That's for your database. IronSpeed Designer is a page construction tool to create your web pages. Now, for our particular purposes today, we'll have the tables, and we're going to talk about the database schema. We have the notion of cases. We have lookup tables. There are attachments and a knowledge base and customers and representatives. Here, I know it's a little small. When you get the slides, you can blow it up and see it in better detail. You can make out we have representatives here in the middle and orders and transactions, etc. But a customer service application can be, even in a simple one, a relatively complex affair. So let's talk about what is customer relationship management, because CRM is managing all the customer relationships. This customer service is only a small part of the CRM. You can see we have sales, marketing, technical support, and customer support. Then customer service becomes a part of your CRM application. We also equate it to help desk or customer support. The application itself is really two applications, because there's one that the customers use. They log in to their own customer service web page, and they get their pages for dealing with their record, their customer records, their cases, etc. Meanwhile, in the company, the representatives from the company log into the company side of the customer service application and can do other things that the customers can't be allowed to do. So we have a customer service application that faces the company. You manage the support cases and the customers there. You manage customer accounts, and you manage your knowledge base. And facing the customers for customer service, you want to be able to create new support cases. You want to update support cases. You want to search your knowledge base, and you want to update your own account. In technical support, with the technical support aspect, you want to manage all your customer support cases on either side. So you have case status. You want to be able to look at it by different variables, and you want to be able to create notes and integrate it with your company customers' accounts. To create either of these applications, because remember what I said is there are really two applications for a customer service application. You'll go to the IronSpeed Designer application wizard and then create the application. I'll show you how to do that in just a little while after we talk about what else we have here. To build an application, first you decide which tables you want to include in your application. You select all the tables and create the types of pages that you need. IronSpeed Designer then creates all the pages that you've asked for. You add security to your application, and at that point, it's logically done. Of course, it's not physically done because there is a great deal of fine-tuning and page rearrangement, menu rearrangement, etc. And you have only one thing missing. You have the usability. How is a customer going to use it? So our work, really all of the work, is to refine the pages, define the entry points, the menus, each task and how it should be done, and make sure that the pages we have support that. We can then add extra features to our pages. We can add formulas or charts. And in particular, in creating any application, but also in the customer service applications we're creating, we will have hyperlinks where we'll have a field that represents a link to something else. And so we can use formulas such as the one here. If you look at it, it's looking up the orders count query in the employee ID, and it's getting the value for it, and then it's using that, if their value exists, to link to the show orders table. Given the employee ID, it's looked up in this formula. And then we have auditing. Now, auditing is where you have fields in each of your tables, or in the tables you want to audit, such as when it was updated and who was updated by. And that goes in this application too. And for that, you want to be sure that you prepare your application keeping in mind that you don't want to show those fields on pages generally. You don't want to have IronSpeed Designer automatically show those fields, but you want to have them used for the auditing purposes and automatically updated whenever you update, either add or edit any of those records. Also, IronSpeed Designer prepares a menu system, but the menu system doesn't have to contain all your pages. You can use the internal buttons on pages for getting at tables rather than the direct menu, and you'll find that part of your tuning is exactly that, deciding which places you should put in the direct menu and which places you want to have accessed from other pages. One of the strategies for creating an application is using the application generation options, especially if once you know how IronSpeed Designer works and you know that there's a certain way you want to create your pages or have them work, then you create an application with just one page and you adjust your application generation options, and then you go back and create all the rest of your pages, including you can delete the one you created initially and create a new one with the new application generation options. That strategy works for lots of things. And to add child detail tables, you have a table you're looking at, or a record you're looking at, and you want to have a detail table below linked to the child record you're looking at. Then to add that table, instead of just dropping the table below the record, the trick you use is you drop the table into the record, and then you use cut and paste to cut it and put it below the record. And there are many, many more, but we'll take some questions. But first, we're going to actually apply all these things I've talked about with IronSpeed Designer and show you how the customer service applications are created. So we'll start Designer. And let's see if I got enough before I see it. I don't need my control panel here. And actually we have, as I said earlier, we have both customer service applications, the customer-facing one and the company-facing one, prepared as part of the materials we'll distribute for this webinar. And so let's just start by taking a look at what we already have. Here's the company-facing, the customer service company-facing application. And we can see in the Application Explorer, well, let's see, the best thing to do is let's just run it. And we'll go over the parts, and then we'll look at the Application Explorer, see what it consists of. And here, running in our development server on my local machine, you won't be able to see this if you try to use the URL on the internet, but that's okay. We're looking at it here. And we have the customer-facing application. You can log in. And let's see, who do we want to log in as? I think this is Lance, with the same password. No, not Lance there, so this must be Bill. Oh, wait, did I do? Oh, yes, okay. Sorry, I got confused for a minute because what we're running here is not the customer-facing, it's the company-facing one. And for the company-facing one, the representative we're looking for is Bill. And now I see that I have my account company. I can show the account companies that I'm working with. I can add one. I can, and of course I can edit the records, show the records, and go to look at my support cases. Look at the support cases that I have, look at any of the details. I can look at my list of customers. And I can look at my knowledge base and maintain my knowledge base, the questions and their answers. So that's this is just a bare outline of a customer service application that you can start with and use in your own company. And we'll sign out of this one. We'll go back to our IronSpeed Designer, and now we'll look at the customer-facing application. So now I'm a customer, and I'll want to log in. I have my own support cases, and I want to maybe ask some questions in the knowledge base. So we'll run this application. To avoid confusion, oh, I can leave it there. Now here's the customer facing. I'm a customer. I'm looking through my knowledge base. I want to get an answer to one of the questions. I can also go to look at my cases. But to look at my cases, I have to log in, and of course, one of my customers is Lance. And now I can look at my cases and see what I've got and put a new one in. I can always add a new case. Whoops, not problem history. I can add a new case. And I can also look at my account. And so that's the elements that we want to build. Now, how do we go about building them with IronSpeed Designer? Well, let's just go to IronSpeed Designer. and close this and build a new application. As I said in the slides, if you caught the slides, basically you choose what tables and views you want in your application. You can start with a core set and add pieces later. But what we want to do is then build all the pages we might want, and then we'll go through and refine those pages and add security to our application. So we start by building an application. Now, we'll just start with an example of the customer-facing application where we could look at knowledge base questions, we could look at our cases, and we could edit our account. To do that, first thing and I won't worry about adding mobile pages right now. I could add mobile pages later. One thing you may note if you're using IronSpeed Designer right now, this application is built with a classic theme. And it's done that way. This is to maintain consistency with previous webinars and the previous application that's out there. This application was migrated from an earlier version before Modern existed, so we have it in the Adams Classic theme. And then we go to our SQL server. Now the database that's used for this, it's called CRM1. It lives on my local SQL server, so I should be able to go to local. And find CRM1, and I don't want to have everything, and choose then the examples or the tables that I want to include in the core application that I'm preparing right now. Well, I need cases, I need case attachments, I need customers, I need the knowledge base, and notice there are a lot of opportunities for me to expand the application once I get it going. But for a core set, I want to have merchant emails, and I need the problem history, which is down here a ways. With all those, and with those, whoops, I made a mistake here because what I want to do is select all of the pages first, and I want to do that for everybody. So let's first just select one table. We get the cases, and we're going to look at the pages. Here we go. Let me select the case. We're going to have an add record, an edit record. We're going to have a show record and a basic table page. With those 4 pages as the base, we'll then select our different tables there, and therefore each one of the tables will get the same set of pages, not customer roles, customer, and the knowledge base, and the merchant emails, and the problem history. Once we've done that, we can have no virtual or foreign primary keys to add. We can add foreign languages if you'd like. If you have foreign language customers who want to use the website, you can add your language. And then we'll decide where we'll keep it. Now I have in my training section, I have customer service version 12.0.2. So this will be named My App 1. I already have one there that we looked at earlier, which is the one I'll be giving you in the materials. And it's using the 3.5 framework, and this is determined by the server, the framework on your web server, which then we'll use Visual Studio 2008 with. And we'll create it as a website. Once we do that, we'll finish the application. This will create all of the pages and many extra pages, because if we took a minute and looked at the final application I have, you'll see that some of the tables only have a few set of the pages and some have them all. And you can do that very easily by just deleting what you don't want. If it isn't used, it won't be there. And then also correcting the menus. We can pare the menus down, and all of this is done with customization. So we go back to our Iron Speed Designer. We can prepare the menus by customizing our menus, by configuring the menus. And also for each of the pages, notice we have case attachments, we have edit and show. We won't use all of these pages, and so if you want a good example, let's just run another 12.02 Iron Speed Designer here. And we'll look at the customer facing, and you can see the difference between the raw application I've created with all the capabilities and then paring it down to be directed to just the functions I want to serve. So we'll go back and open up my customer facing application. And here, let's just take a look at the difference in the Application Explorer on the two different applications. Here we have cases. Oh, and it looks like I left out the account company table. Oh, I didn't here. And case attachments. And so on. And also, looks like I haven't arranged for quick selectors in my customer, so I would want to go back, and here's what I talked about earlier, where the application generation options, I believe they're not set to generate quick selectors for the classic themes, and so you may want to change that because quick selectors work quite well, and they're a key part of this application, and so on. So you'll work at then refining this application, refining the menus, and so forth. Now let me take a look at the question we've got here. We had one come in so far. Can we also get access to the sample CRM application as built with the webinar? We're not building one, or if you can build the same thing. The one built, you mean the customer-facing and company-facing applications, by all means. Yes, you're going to get each of these applications that we looked at, the CS customer, and let's just show you here. If we go to look at my customer service in version 12.02, we have two applications. There's customer company-facing and customer-facing customer service, both of which we've looked at and which you'll get in their built-up form where we've done all the modifications and give you the sample application. There's also the database itself, which you'll get an SQL file to create your own, which includes I believe it includes some sample data that we've got, which you can easily take out. There are only a few records. And you'll also get access to the PowerPoint presentation. That's the materials that we'll be providing for the application or for the webinar. And let's see, how are we doing here? Well, we have time left. I got time for questions. And at this point, questions is really what I'd like to see, because there isn't enough time to really do anything meaningful to the application. I can talk about more techniques and look at the slides, but really what you'll see is I've got the application I built here, my app 1, and the application that was my target, which I developed over quite a period of time, pruning the things we need, for instance, in the knowledge base. All we want for the knowledge base is to be able to read it. We don't want you to be able to edit anything or look at anything, so we just have a way of showing the table and a way of showing the record. So we go to the knowledge base here. We don't need the add, the edit, so we can take those out. And same thing, let's go look at, this is the customer-facing application. Go back to what we just started up. Remember, if I want to, here I've got the knowledge base, which anybody can look at. It isn't protected, and the cases or account. So if I go to look at my account, of course, I'm going to have to log in as one of my customers. And then I get access to the case. I can look at my different cases. I can edit any case. Here's the case and its problem history, and so on. So let's see what the questions are. What is the advised sequence of paring down built versus needed? Which pieces first? That really depends on what you're building. I build up pretty much a set of what you saw. Now there are some other table pages, such as the group by table and the edit table. One of the keys to IronSpeed Designer development is getting to know the different types of pages you have so that you can decide when you want to use them. A show page, a show table page, that's what we've got here. It shows you the various records in the table. You get a complete list. You can page through. There aren't more than one page, but if this had lots and lots of knowledge base, and you get filters, you can filter it. But with the application, so we'll prepare a table page. This is a basic table page. If there were related tables, I might want to use a group by page where I'd have related tables to each record grouped with the records themselves. I might want to use an edit. Instead of preparing a basic table, I prepare an editable table. So there's an edit table page. And let's just look at that. And also, one of the things I didn't show you is in my app one, this is the sample customer facing. So let's go to the security wizard. The one thing I didn't do to this application was logically add security. It's very easy to add it, then how you apply it and where you apply it is up to you. But we will add just database with no roles. And in the database, we'll have employees and customers. The customers is for the customer-facing one. The customers log in. They have username and password, but of course we changed that for demonstration purposes. Actually, we didn't. We're using username and customer and password. It's just that we made them the same as their last name or their first name. And if we have an email address, we don't have an email address, so we can't use the email field because there isn't any email field unless we had, I believe this might work, if this email address ID was a foreign key to the email address field, to the email merchant emails table. And so then it's possible we could use it. I haven't tried that, and that's Okay, let me go. So for the sequence of what you pare down, you look at each function. You supposedly have use cases of exactly what you want to do, what a customer wants to do when they look at a knowledge base, what a customer wants to do when they look at the cases. And so you use those to determine which tables and how they link. Anyway, for the security, so we prepare the security, we prepare the pages we want to be secured. You don't want them all, but you probably want most of them. And so the only thing we don't want on the customer one is the knowledge bases. So let's take out the knowledge base pages. And then we set the security, and then we finish your security wizard, and now we have the core security added to our application. Okay, let's. Is it possible to open the solution in Visual Studio? Absolutely. Iron Speed Designer works very well with Visual Studio, and so all we have to do, here's our application. Let's just open it in Visual Studio. Now you have to have the Visual Studio that you're, of course, asking to work with, and it has to match the framework, but that's the way it works. And then you can edit the application in Visual Studio. For if you've developed Iron Speed Designer applications, you know it's important to follow the protocol for placement of code and everything. Code changes go in section 1, don't change section 2, so that Iron Speed Designer doesn't overwrite your code changes. How to turn on the Quick Select in Classic? That's a good question. Let's take a look at that and see. We would go to our tools. I think we want our configure start page. Whoa, wait a minute. Configure view state view. No, with development configure application. Configuring my application, general application options, and then it's for each page. I believe we have to do this for each page. These are the general application options. Selecting rich text, mobile page, sign-in page, web text, quick selector controls. Limit the quick selector controls to number of characters. Oh, it's already got quick selector control. So I don't know why it didn't create quick selectors. I'd have to investigate that. Apparently it's already okay. Well, no, mobile text search controls. Web start, see, security, application, infinite pagination, web page options, page controls, add calendar, no, add maximum width, pop up, rich data. So let's go one other thing, cancel, add to our application. You look at our application wizard because many of the individual pages, controls are found in, let's see, if we're looking at a case, if we look at any one of these and configure that. So look, suppose we want to edit a record. Then here are the options for this particular page. Tab, across and down, database field order, expand and collapse. Detail page, table row buttons, many to many, nothing there. I'm going to have to take a look at why that happens and tell you what, we do edit. Hugh, if you'll give me, send an email to the IS editor for me, and I'll look up the answer for that because I'm not finding it really quickly right here. Do we edit menus before tabs? You edit menus is very easy, and if you've tried it, you know that it's just a matter of, let me get out of the application wizard. We go to our menus and we right-click and configure the menus. You can move the menus around wherever you want. Here's the existing customer service application. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, but so before the tabs, actually you do them in any order you want. You just have to remember to do them both. If you have a tab that you want, you have to have a reference from it. If your customer wants some additional logic, authorization for pages. Can we write C#? You certainly can. You can, depending on what you customize, it's all done in your Visual Studio. You also don't have to have Visual Studio. You can do it directly in IronSpeed. Go to any page. Let me pick my page. And if I use the code, where's my page here? I can look at my controls file. I can look at the contents of the controls file, and I can edit it here. When I create an application, the text boxes have features I don't need, such as font and alignment. How do I remove these at generation of the application? Depending on where they're selected or where they're created, normally you'd find the kinds of things I think you're talking about as part of the classes that determine the application itself, the page style. And the page style, the classes are in, the CSS classes are in the base styles file in your themes folder. The base styles file, you can find out any class that affects any element in your application, and you can customize it. The best way to customize it is simply take a copy from here and put it into the empty styles file and then rearrange it here. Everything that's in styles overrides base styles. So take a look at that. Please show usage of audit tool that tags rows updated. Ah, yes. Thank you, Larry. The auditing is added. Let me go to my app 1. I didn't do that, but there are two elements to this. Let me get out of Visual Studio and into my app 1 in IronSpeed Designer. The first of them is the configure application. Well, let's see. Let me start the application wizard. In my options in my application wizard, one of the things you can do is exclude fields from appearing on pages. And when you're using audit fields, you want to exclude those fields. You don't want them showing up on your pages. So you put them in your fields to exclude, which is found in the options in the application wizard. Once you do that, then you also have to, or want to run your tools, the batch wizard, because the batch wizard gives us the way to do global initialization, validation, button actions, etc. Initialization, what we're talking about, you would go to update it on, and we'll initialize it to today's date, and initialize the updated by to the user ID of the logged in user, which means you'll have to be, whoops, what's going on here? This one and this one here. And don't want to add any other for right now. We'll go to the next and finish, and that will add those global initializations to our application. How to automatically send email notifications triggered by changing the status of the case. That is a little more complicated than I have time to do here. You should see an example of it in your application, which you'll get to look at. Remember, all of these things that you want to know about, what you're getting is the application itself, and you can go apart and dissect it at your own leisure and look at exactly how it's done in the application. But basically, adding an email action starts with, say, a button on a page. Let's just show you quick. Let me go to the buttons on the page. Field panel, fields. Case control header panel. What do we got here? We've got the show code. That's why it's a showcase table. I want the edit case table page. So because when I edit case page, I want to look at the buttons. Here's my buttons panel, and I want to look at. So when I save it, I may want to update this button, and I can do that by going to the behavior of the button actions, save data, and here it's got nothing configured, but I can change that. Just select this and add an email action and so forth. I'm not going to do the details here. Now, when you have email in your application, it's also very important that remember your application will need to configure SMTP, which is in Tools, Configure Email Server. So you'll also have to configure an email server for your application. What a group by page looks like and how to use it. The group by page, let's take an example. I think that if we look at our application, what we've got running here, not the knowledge base, but the cases, and I'm not sure if this, well, I know what the trouble is. We're looking at the wrong application. I want to look at, I won't do it right now. Let's get the customer application. This is the customer application. And so what I want to look at is my company-facing application, which goes into more detail. Here's a group by case table. So if you want to see what a group by field page looks like, you can just preview that. And let's turn off security for right now. This may, in order to be able to preview it. Once you've got your application secured, using preview can cause some complications, because if we're, of course, looking for an association with a logged in user and we don't have security, there is no logged in user. But here's a group by page where we have the record itself, and then grouped with it are the problem history records. And it's just that simple. For every one of them, you get that. Group by page. How would I create a mobile edit table that can open from show view? A modal edit table that opens from a show view. Well, the show record page does have an edit button on it, and you can configure that edit button to either be a modal page or the real edit page itself. It's up to you. Let me see if we get an, here's a showcase record. What do we got? I don't want to. And the case record has an edit button. The edit button in this case opens up the edit page, but I can also program that. So let's go back to my layout editor and go back to, okay, I need to get this guy out of here. My button, page button, nope, sorry, edit. Come on, not the page button. Where's my edit button channel? Edit case record, page buttons, yes. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Showcase has the button with edit. And here, my redirect, where is my button? Behavior, actions, control visible, shared redirect. Where is my page directives, page securities? Edit case, redirect. Here's the redirect. If I want to change the way it redirects, I go to, in my button actions, I go to what type of redirect. This redirects to a specific URL, which opens up my new page. I can also have it direct in a modal pop-up, navigate within the new window, et cetera, et cetera. So you would change that action there. For a customer service application, how do you allow a customer to only view his own cases when allowing a support person to be able to view all cases? That is, let's see, we're looking at the company view here, so there's no restriction on being able, because the logged in user is the representative and not the customer. The customer can't see this. So we need to look at, again, you'll find the exact answer in your customer facing application. In the customer facing application, we have, let's go to cases, and in the showcase table we have the query for the case table, and query where the customer user account customer ID or account user ID is the user ID of the logged in user. So this where clause has been added. You'll find out, you can look at that when you get your application. How to attach documents with CRM cases, requests. Document attachments are in another section of the application. Case attachments here. Actually, and if we have a showcase, if we look at the showcase record, the case has related tables of problem history, and the problem history, I believe, will have attachments in it. Problem history panel, fields, okay, and description updated by, updated on. Let me see for cases. We have the case, and the case has these records, but whoops. The case has a record and it has a problem history table control, so it has related problem history, which are related by the. And so where did let me just, case attachments. Whoops. Here. This is, whoa, now, which one are we using? Lance and Lance. Oh, come on, guys. Start over with, can't go there. Put that aside for a minute and get on, because we got a couple other questions. When designing an edit table with a password field, I want to show the password. If you want to show the password, you have to change a few things. ISD seems to be using a star to hide the password when editing. It also clears the field each time the row is displayed. I want to show the password field example of how to do that. Those things are controlled in your designer, in your databases. There's a couple of places where you'll find information you need. And then let's see, where is my customer? Look at my customer. Here I've got a password field in the customer record. And you'll notice it's validation type. Where is my validation? Validate, validation. Password, case conversion, maybe validation type is password. You don't want to use password, then change it to string. Then it won't be automatically considered as a password. And you may also want to check in the record itself if there is anything changed that overrides it there, but this is the start of where you have to, if you want to see your passwords, then you have to change its validation type to string. What options do you have under geolocation? What scenario would you use this in? The geolocation is really not included in this application. It's a subject for another webinar. You know, there are features, and we can, of course, do geolocation. For that, I don't have time to talk about it anymore on this one. Can I create can I create a two-table view on the same page that are independent of each other and can be scrolled independently? Yes, you can. You can take a table control. You can take a blank page, or you can take a table control of any table control page you've got. Let's get out of the databases and go over to the database editor. Here's a table control, right? We have the attachments table. It has an attachment and a problem history ID that it belongs to. We could, at the same time, create another. Just go over to our toolbox. Go to our reports and forms. Let's get a data entry, not a data entry, but a report for, say, unrelated tables. There you go. Pick any of the unrelated tables of employees. Let's drop in a whole panel, then configure it, etc., and you'll have a panel here. Separate panel, completely separate, and you can do them together. You may have some trouble figuring out how a user would coordinate them, but you have the tools to do it. How to add additional UI controls, such as a calendar button. That question was for the database web app. For the database web. The calendar controls, whether a calendar control is shown, is one of the application generation options. I think you saw that when we went to configure application. I'm not sure exactly where we page controls, calendar control for date fields, automatic pop-up. You have options here, calendar, none, etc. So you can configure something there. If you want to have your own third-party control, you can do that too, but then you have to use all of the, remember, the IronSpeed Designer application that you've got here is not proprietary in any sense. It's a completely standard ASP.NET web application, so you can include other controls in it. Can we also get access to the sample, CRM sample application is built with the webinar? Oh, that's the one we already had. And how to attach documents. All right, I wanted to talk about that. I didn't really give you a good explanation of that, and I'm afraid I can't in all the time we have left, although that's the last one. Let's see. There's one more question coming. Meanwhile, let me look at, I've got my attachments. So let's open up my customer application. Let's run it here. Cancel this. Let's run my customer application. For security, it looks like you have customer, customer role, and roles table. Do you create all, or did ISD create some from the wizard? ISD did not create those. The roles that are included, you can use role-based security in this application if you'd like, and it has roles tables included with it so that you can do that. Those were created as part of the schema, and they're in the schema that you'll get. Now, with our knowledge, not with our knowledge base, but with our cases, and we want to log in here. And with our problem history, do we have You know what? We have created this one without attachment. Let's see what we got here. This is related, no problem history. If we add a problem history record, then there's a problem history record. We're adding the case and the description and the attachment. The attachment tables are added to the problem history record. So they're attached there, and we can add an attachment. And we add an attachment simply by browsing to a record in my database or in my computer and adding it. And so to find out how that's done and to look at exactly the mechanics, then you go to the problem history record here and you check out how the case attachments are added. And I think that does it for today. Let's picked up on the questions there. Thank you for all the questions. Remember, I think there was one I don't think I did a good answer to. If you want an answer to some question that was asked today, if you'll send an email into IS Editor and just asking for the answer to that question, you give it to me and I'll make sure you get an answer for it. And thank you very much for attending, and sorry for all the delay starting up. It seems Murphy was in good attendance today.